The NFL is finally back. We're here for episode 100 of Total Football Talk. Let's get this thing started. Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 100 of Total Football Talk. We're here to recap week one, well, especially the Sunday action in week one for the NFL. And here with me to bring it on in, we got to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kyle Nash. Welcome back to the program.
What's good, Drew Willingham? Always fun to jump in and talk football. And hey, listen, I'm credited with the 50th episode on one. Glad to jump in for the 100th episode of another. The struggle may be real to be awesome. That doesn't mean I have fun struggling. That's do this thing, Drew Willingham. I'm stoked.
100 episodes, finally at triple digits. A lot of content has been created over the last three. Now, this is the third season that Total Football Talk has now been in action, describing what we see out here within the NFL on a week-to-week basis. This past Saturday, we actually had Total Football Talk Extra with Ryan McCarthy, as we had episode 26 of that. For all of you out there who want to continue seeing the Canadian football coverage, you can check that out, as well as the recaps from Thursday night and Monday night games on Total Football Talk, but that will be on Fridays starting this week consecutively. And this show will be following Sunday night football. Now, tonight, of course, we had a lot of shenanigans, which is what made the game go a little bit later and what started this broadcast a little bit later than what we intentionally had planned. But with that being said, we have 13 games from today to go back and recap, as well as the games for this upcoming week to preview. Let's go ahead and take it on into today's action with the Sunday games. And today, for the first game of the week that we're going to cover for the 1 p.m. games, we're going to start with the Miami Dolphins on the road in Indianapolis to take on the Colts. And Daniel Jones showed up today, Kyle Nash. I mean, he only had one passing touchdown, but he had two rushing touchdowns, 22 of 29 on passing attempts, 272 passing yards along with that passing touchdown, and 7 carries for 26 rushing yards and the two mentioned rushing touchdowns, 3 total for the day. Jonathan Taylor also helped establish the flow on offense with 18 carries for 71 yards, along with DJ Giddens, 12 carries for 41 yards. Michael Pittman Jr., 6 receptions for 80 receiving yards and a touchdown, along with Tyler Warren, who had 7 receptions for 76 yards. The Colts defense, 3 sacks with 1 fumble recovery and 2 interceptions by Cameron Bynum and Samson Abukum. I guess I said that right. I hope so. Tell me in the comments if I messed that one up. But the field goal kicker for the team, for the Colts, was perfect on the day. 4 of 4, contributing 15 of those 33 points on the day. For the losing effort of the Miami Dolphins, with their only 8 points that they were able to muster up on the day, Kyle Nash, 14 to 23 for passing attempts out of Tua Tagovailoa for 114 passing yards, a touchdown, and 2 big interceptions. He did run for his life in 1 carry for 7 yards for that 1 run, but hey, he made an attempt. Devon Achane, 7 carries for 55 rushing yards and 3 receptions for 20 receiving yards, along with his receiving touchdown, were the highlight of the offense, because Tyreek Hill only had 4 catches for 40 yards, and Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions for 30 yards. With all this money they're investing into these players, these big-name players I mentioned on offense, what is your overall thoughts when looking back at this game that we saw today?
Yeah, and you mentioned the money, Drew. When Devon Achane is outperforming both your bookend dudes in the passing game as a running back, you're already in trouble. But here, the takes are already flying. By the way, I'm sticking to it, Drew Willingham. On the Duval dive, we just did our prediction show with Ben Troop on the show. I still don't see 5 wins on the schedule for the Colts. But this was one of them that I did see early on. And I knew the Dolphins were going to be bad, Drew. I didn't expect this, but this is what happens. People, you come out when your top investment is a Tyreek Hill and you have Jalen Waddle, you've thrown all this money into Tua, Drew. Your team's going to look soft because these are the pieces that you've invested in and you've let the defense slide, right? Minka Fitzpatrick, cool, but obviously not enough. And listen, the roster in total for the Colts has been great for a minute. They've just been good except for in one spot, right? Which is quarterback. And Dimes, listen, I know I've made jokes that I think Indiana Jones is going to get whipped in the long run. That's fine. And I'm going to stick with that take. I'm not ready to back down from that. But when you come out and you have a roster this good and balanced as the Colts do, Daniel Jones had success with the Giants when they were able to do that in the past. So again, the extent of said butt whooping is really the only surprise, but the result thus that it is. I mean, hey, if you had said to me 20-8, believable. 33-8, okay, I'm a little surprised. I get it. That's weird.
This would not have happened with Anthony Richardson. If he was playing, this would not have happened.
And it's a different game plan when you're using AR, right? Like I think in that instance, you're running the ball more. That's the secure action. But I like the point you're making in letting the receivers do more to shine. If you have a person who could run, if you have a quarterback specifically who can be balanced in running and throwing the ball, obviously Dimes is not as good an athlete. Let's not get stupid here. But if you get somebody who could do both relatively well, you know, I've witnessed Daniel Jones run for over 100 yards before. I was at Everbank Stadium when he did it. I think it was 2 years ago against said Jaguars, right? So I think he's enough of a balance in passing and running to make as much of this good roster that the Colts have as viable weapons as possible. And like you said, you can't do that with AR in the same way. He doesn't throw the ball as well, I don't think. Not yet, anyway.
No, he doesn't. And he needs more time to develop if he's going to be an NFL quarterback. It's what we saw last year, especially with him getting tired. It didn't really work out when he got tired and he had to take himself out. If you remember when that happened.
I do, but that's listen. And I know it's fun. I know it's fun to talk the smack and you know, come in and have fun on Surtoba. I get it. At least you're not hurting yourself talking about Yo King or anything like that. But hey, listen. One thing
Yo King.
I don't have to say it anymore.
You know what? For your safety, I feel better. But with all that being said, my man, like the main thing for Anthony Richardson, he didn't finish a college season healthy. The fact that he can't finish a football season healthy is why he's not developed yet. Funny how that works. When you don't play, you can't get better. And listen, if the Colts opt to move on from Anthony Richardson as a project, I completely get it. For anybody that's in the know, the main reason they drafted him was because they didn't want Will Levis. Just saying.
Very true. I mean, it's you know, we'll get to the Titans here in a little bit, but they weren't much better today, regardless who's in there. But let us know here in the comments what you guys think about this game right here between the Dolphins and the Colts, because the Dolphins as a whole, in my opinion, they look pretty bad. I mean, they looked like a bunch of dumpster pelicans that if I were to rate them on scale of 1 to top 5 dumpster pelican, they're probably the number 1. Now, let's go back and loop that for a second. They're probably the number 1 over to the right with the longest beak at the top of the week for only putting up 8 points this week. Even the Giants put up a little bit less, but they look like they put up more of a fight than you and your 8 points with the amount of money you're investing to those receivers. You got to get it together because you look like these dumpster pelicans standing in a landfill.
You know you're bad when you have Drew Willingham giving himself production direction mid show. That's next level ish right there. I almost cursed. That's how surprising it is. Anyways, go ahead.
With that being said, there's one game down. We still have plenty to go. Let's go ahead and take it on into the game 2. And that's going to be between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Jets, Kyle Nash. This one right here, Aaron Rodgers faces his former team that he was written off as an outcast pretty much saying that he could not play there anymore. It wasn't worthwhile to be in their system. That's how he took it with his post-game comments pretty much. And for this game right here, he put up 22 completions out of 30 attempts for 244 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. For a man in his 40s. Turning back the time, playing pretty well like he did today. Old Aaron Rodgers having fun over here in the end zone as he did, especially when Jaylen Warren added 11 carries for 37 yards to help establish the flow of the offense with 2 receptions, 22 receiving yards, and a touchdown. DK Metcalf didn't haul in any touchdowns today, but he had 4 receptions for 83 yards. Calvin Austin III had 4 receptions for 70 receiving yards and a touchdown. Their defense, 1 sack with a fumble recovery, and Chris Boswell, the kicker, added 2 completed field goals out of 2 attempts with 10 points to their contributed 34 in total. Justin Fields on the other side, 16 of 22 for 218 passing yards and a touchdown. He had 12 carries for 48 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns on the day, not too bad, where pretty much both of these quarterbacks swapped homes in the offseason. Breece Hall had 19 carries for 107 yards, along with 2 receptions for 38 yards on the day. Garrett Wilson had 7 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown, along with Tyler Johnson, 2 receptions for 31 yards for the top 2 receivers for this team. The Jets total penalties, 7 for 74 yards, and they even had the ball more than the Steelers with a time of possession of 34 minutes and 43 seconds. So on paper, you take away the penalties with the time of possession and what the offense actually did, they should have won this game. But the defense gave up 34 points and was pretty bad, even though they had 4 sacks on the day and got to Rodgers those 4 times. With all that being said, Kyle, what are your overall thoughts looking back on this game and the homecoming for Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, listen, looking at your graphic, I feel like it should have been maybe, I don't know, formatted more like a soap opera, because you mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Are we not? I would be remiss to not also bring up further drama in the form of Justin Fields being in play, right? A former Steeler playing his team after being told he's not good enough to start. And listen, let's be clear. It's okay. Sometimes both parties in a divorce needed that relationship to end. And that's exactly what was going on with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wants to be, how you say in the scientific terms, butthurt about it, listen, proper motivation, so you end up throwing 4 TDs. Who's that? I am not above petty myself in football terms. That's okay, but it doesn't. I love how you have the penalties here. Do I expect this to be what either team looks like beyond this game? Heavens no. There was too much drama for me to actually get full football analysis out of this. By the way, if I said to you the deciding play in a game would be a Jalen Ramsey tackle where somebody knocked the ball loose, you would have wondered what illicit substances I was participating in during the game. I don't partake of gummies. Don't say that just because I'm fat, but you would think I had one if I told you that was true before you saw it with your own eyes. And listen, I've never seen Jalen Ramsey put on a hit that good. Welcome to Steeler culture. Still kind of weird, though, that Bryce Hall's your leading rusher for the game in a game where the Steelers are featured. But listen, this is some of the best quality football I've seen from a Jets game in some time. I'm not here to say that Justin Fields is, everything and is going to be Super Bowl. No, not happening. They don't have a defense like that Mark Sanchez group that could take them to the AFC Championship game or anything like that. But look up, Jets fans. This is better football.
Yeah, but I think it says a lot about the Steelers' defense too, though, Kyle, because, they should have had more than just a sack in that one fumble recovery. Like, they should have been able to force more turnovers or get to the quarterback a little bit more. With only 1 sack, it didn't feel like there was much pressure on Fields when looking at this game today. And yeah, he's younger and he has the ability to be more mobile than what Aaron Rodgers. You're pretty much gifted 2 to 3 sacks when you face Aaron Rodgers because of his inability to move as good as he did 10 years ago. But right. Justin Fields, you should still be able to put some pressure on them with who you have on defense over there. You got Patrick Queen, okay? You just got him during the offseason. You just got Jalen Ramsey. You got TJ Watt. You got these heavy hitters. Just as much as we were talking about the offense for the Dolphins and what they've invested in monetary-wise for them, you've done the same thing in Pittsburgh with the defense. You should be able to not give up 32 points to the New York Jets. I know it's week 1. I know a lot of these players are getting their bearings straight because they just, it's week 1. But a lot of these games this week were division matchups that make a big impact when you get later to the season, and it's like a one-game decisive situation to take the division, okay? Not saying the New York Jets are going to be in the division, but had they lost to the New York Jets, that loss could affect them in the division run for the Steelers if they are that good to make the run, because they needed a quarterback to drive the ship where the defense was supposed to carry them. So when I'm thinking about this and you're giving up 32 points to the Jets, that's pretty bad. That defense was trash today. They were bad.
I mean, but what you observe here, and I think is something that all of us are taking for granted going into this, and certainly seeing this now and hearing the points you're making, Drew. This is what Mika Fitzpatrick would make up for typically. He was a big deal. TJ Watt took the spotlight, and rightly so, because he made an abundance of plays up front. You don't necessarily see all the stuff a top safety does away from the ball to maintain a defense. Well, you do here. And if there is a position out there that's suffering in the NFL as far as the base level of talent in the league, it's safety. So when you lose one, it's a pretty big blow. How many great safeties that are out there now can you even really name? Like, this isn't the days where they were with Ed Reed, John Lynch, Troy Polamalu all playing at the same time. And I'm naming just a few, right?
Yes. Yeah, and you bring up a great point. There's not really many. And, with all that being said, they got a pretty long season. If you're giving up 32 points to the Jets, who are still not expected to be contending for the division, but you are. And that's a team that Aaron Rodgers came from. There was an absolute dumpster fire. I mean, they really were last year, and they have been for quite so many years since they won Super Bowl III. So we'll leave that one at that. But we do have one comment here in the chat. Dante Hill says, "What up, guys? Up late. Up late tonight. We're recapping all of Sunday action after the Sunday night game because it's episode 100, and we're covering it all for that one." With that being said, let's go ahead and take this on into the next game that we have to cover. And that is between a team that very, very well, Kyle Nash, because you cover them. That's where you're around. You're around there. And they were all over the other cats. Cats versus cats here. Panthers. This was the Cat Bowl. You got to look at this one, Kyle Nash. You know it, and I know it. That's what it felt like when looking at this. Travis Hunter's first game. He is finally in the NFL, and he had some action on both sides of the ball a little bit. He had like a half a tackle on defense. It wasn't too much. I mean, that's still good. I mean, to be in there and do what you did and play both ways in the first game, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying you still had a half a tackle. You did something, all right? Mm-hmm. That's not on our slate, but I wanted to make a point of that just to say, hey, he was a contributing factor in this win today because Trevor Lawrence was 19 of 31 for 178 passing yards. He had a touchdown and an interception. Wasn't his greatest day. Didn't throw but so many yards and had a turnover. He also had 4 carries for 12 yards. Travis Etienne, though, was what was keeping this offensive flow established, in my opinion. 16 carries for 143 rushing yards and added 3 receptions for 13 yards. Was literally your MVP of the day. Kept things moving. Brenton Strange, 4 receptions for 59 yards, along with Travis Hunter, as I mentioned. 6 receptions for 33 yards, leading the way for receptions on the day for this team. So he was targeted quite a bit, which goes to show where they think he's going to be playing a lot of, but he still made contributions on defense. Total penalties for this team, though, which is what kept this game as close as it was, because it should have been you should have been able to beat up those other kiddies, man. You should have, because 11 total penalties for 93 yards is pretty tough to work with. But your defense hung tough in there with 1 sack, a fumble recovery, and 2 interceptions. I'm going to let you pronounce that name.
Oh, Foyesade Oluokun. Foye Oluokun is probably the most underrated defensive player in the league, by the way. So
I've seen his name pop up and seen him in highlights and stuff before, but I wanted to put some respect on his name, and I know you could do it. So I'm still proud.
The good news is having met the guy, I can confirm it sounds how it looks. Oluokun for all those out there, in these streets. There you go.
Well, next time you see him, let him know from me, if you think about it, that not only should be intimidating on the field as he is with these type of numbers, he's putting up interceptions in game one, but his name is also intimidating to try to pronounce. So I just wanted to put some respect on his name by saying it right. We might have to make that into a short because that was probably pretty good with that. But yes, you absolutely crushed it with that. I want to put some respect on his name and Jordan Lewis as well. Both of them had 2 interceptions in the day. So your defense, that you cover, I know it's not your fan team, but that's your team, your number one team media team. So you know all about them. They did their job between them and the running attack for that team. You got it done because the other side, Bryce Young was 18 of 35 on the day. You put a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
It was big time pressure you put on him today. 154 passing yards he completed. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 5 carries for 40 yards. Chuba Hubbard only mustered up 16 carries. With those 16 carries, he only put up 57 yards. He did have 3 receptions for 32 yards and a touchdown, but to keep Hubbard around the 50 to 60-yard mark with that amount of carries, you did your job for the defense, and that's why I wanted to make sure I gave them their flowers with that. Now, we have another situation, Kyle Nash, right here at the next name. I have a feeling I might butcher it. Do you want to take a stab at it, or do you want me to just go ahead?
Are you talking about Ted McMillan?
Yes. Oh, you just say Ted McMillan. Okay, because I need to just do that. Ted McMillan. You're teaching me right here on episode 100.
You can even go next level. T-Mac. That's what they've started to call him. So
okay. T-Mac. Because he was pretty big for the losing team. He had 5 receptions leading the way.
If you remember, he was in talks to be the top receiver in the draft, even over Travis Hunter in some places. Now, obviously, that isn't what went down, but this is that guy for those who are remembering back from the draft previously here.
You just rung a bell because I completely lost. There's a lot of time has been between the draft and here, and so much other stuff between Canadian football here. That one slipped the memory, but he was number 1 targeted receiver.
Yeah, that wasn't just for you, Drew Willingham. Listen, I am a student of the game, and I share the knowledge with all who listen, my friend. Oh, yeah.
Yes, there it is. But hey, with the amount of times he was targeted, it goes to show why they let go of Adam Thielen back to the Vikings. So, because they believe in what they have, even though they got a long way to go with the Panthers team, especially with the way the Jags defense roughed them up. Because Jatavian Sanders only put up 2 receptions for 27 yards as the secondary receiver for that team. And they had less penalties than the Jags, only 4 for 35 yards, but they couldn't take advantage of literally the +7 penalties they had from the other team in those opportunities with the yardage that they gained from that. They couldn't muster up anything with that. So looking at it, what are your overall thoughts of the team that you see very well over there in Florida?
Well, and listen, I mentioned this not only on the Duval Dive that you mentioned earlier, but my article. No, the bell's coming. My article on Panthers Sports Network when I mentioned my keys to the game. The Panthers were going to run the football. There were no illusions of grandeur there. Say what you will about Bryce Young. I don't care about his size or any of that. Like that was the threat. Chuba Hubbard, and oh, by the way, this was a battle of brotherly love between the Entians. Travis Etienne, obviously the big headliner here for the Jags, but another member of that core, Florida University of Florida running back, Trevor Etienne. Yes, he's even named Trevor too. Trust me, there's Travises, there's Trevors, there are Etiennes everywhere in this game. And oh, by the way, on top of that, there's 2 dudes with the last name of Brown on the Panthers side. It's a whole crazy thing. Oh yeah, and then I bring
family affairs.
Then I bring up Monteric Brown, who's a corner for the Jags as well. So those guys aren't related, but there was a lot of the same names everywhere in there. All that being said, listen, obviously the defense was the play here. If the Jags are going to take advantage of this game in this fashion, they had to stop the running team from running early, and they did it. I don't think the Panthers are a team that could come back from behind, and because they start as slow as they do, it's hard for them to get off to a lead. So it's, unless you're a team that's terrible against the run, the Panthers are going to be a relatively easy out so far, it looks like. And I know everybody's coming in, well, Trevor Lawrence was terrible in the third quarter. Absolutely true.
He was.
Yeah, but in the scheme with penalties, right? You come out in your first drive and commit 3 penalties on offense. That ain't it, bruh. Now, fortunately, Brenton Strange saved the day, and I know what's on the stat sheet will tell you to be impressed with Trevor Etienne, but Brenton Strange, him making completions, him throwing blocks, he's putting pancakes in the backfield as a tight end. It's an amazing thing to see. Brian Thomas Jr. had a touchdown as well on a run. Brenton Strange, key block. When the Panthers tried the onside kick, Brenton Strange fielded said onside kick to secure the victory. Okay. There's just a whole lot going on. And I'll put it this way. I know Trevor's numbers weren't great, but at day's end for me, 11 penalties would have killed this team under Doug Peterson. This isn't what happened with Liam Cohen. And this is easily the best Travis Etienne performance we've seen since his first year starting, which was also, interestingly enough, Doug Peterson's first year, 3 years ago? Yeah. So we had mentioned that the Jags were on the upswing. This game showed that. Now, their upcoming games, a bit more difficult than the Panthers, so that'll be the true litmus test.
It's going to be interesting to see how things pan out for your team that you see mighty bit of in Jacksonville doing their thing this year, because ETN does not put up numbers like that every week. I mean, he doesn't do that consistently where he's putting up triple digits. So
he hasn't been given the opportunity, though, Drew Willingham. I can throw some stats at you that will blow your mind. Just one, though, is all that will do. The Jags in general, but Travis Etienne in particular, the running back with the lowest average yards before first hit, meaning he's getting hit in the backfield earlier than any other running back in 24 and 23 in the NFL. Ponder that. That is how much improvement this offensive line has undergone, by the way. 0 sacks allowed by the aforementioned offensive line today.
It's a very valid point, and we still got a long ways to go for this season. 16 games are left for them and many other teams to play. Love to see how it pans out for them. But before we go to our next game, we do have a comment that I think we're going to bring back up when we have the Broncos game that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. We haven't quite gotten to that point yet. But Daniel Miller says they could fire Sean Payton. Keep that in your noggin. We'll get that back up here when we get to the Broncos game. With that being said, let's go ahead and take it to our third game of Monday's afternoon matchups. And that is between the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints, Kyle Nash. This one right here. Kyler Murray has a lot of catching up to do because, of all the things that have happened within his career at this point. There's been some high expectations on him, and he, at points, has under-delivered at certain stages. And when you're going against the New Orleans Saints and Spencer Rattler, okay, they are still sticking with him. They did not go after any big-time quarterbacks after the retirement of one Derek Carr, because looking at this one right here, 20-13, Kyler Murray gets the win, 21-29 on the day, 163 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns, along with 7 carries for 38 yards on the day. Trey Benson, 8 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown, along with James Conner, who had 12 carries and 39 yards on the ground, but did have 1 receiving touchdown with the few catches that he mustered up. Just not much production when it came to his receiving yards total. Marvin Harrison Jr. finally gets the big shine on an opening day in his second season. He didn't really do but so much in his rookie year, but this time in year 2, he starts out hot with 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown. Trey McBride had 6 receptions for 61 yards, but Harrison was the number 1 target, it appears to be, going forward on this team. Because the Cardinals' time of possession, 33 minutes and 46 seconds. They controlled the clock overall. But the penalties, they need to clean up a little bit. Even though they're the winning team here, they had 9 on the day for 54 yards. They're not going to win games. Continuing with that phase of that, they're not going to keep the momentum up with that if they continue to have that amount of penalties in the game. Speaking of Spencer Rattler, he had 46 attempts passing in this game. He only completed 27 of them, but he nearly threw his arm off in the loss. 46 attempts. Only 214 yards came from that. 4 carries, 29 yards on the ground. Alvin Kamara is still running the ball over there, running pretty hot with 11 carries on the day. Put up 45 yards, but did have a rushing touchdown. He did add 2 receptions for 12 yards on the day as well. Juwan Johnson, the number 1 receiver over there, had 8 receptions for 76 yards. And Chris Olave had 7 receptions for 54 yards on the day. The Saints were worse with the penalties. 13 for 89 yards it cost them. Looking back at this game between these two within the division, what are your overall thoughts? The Cardinals and Saints game.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing about the Cardinals being a force in the NFC West, and I'm pretty sure the Saints are the NFC South are going to be in the running for the top pick sweepstakes in the upcoming draft. But listen, you just can't shoot yourself in the foot that many times. I'm actually relatively unimpressed by the Cardinals here. 13 penalties, and then I believe 2 turnovers by the Saints in the game. You can't win football games like that. And frankly, seeing only 20-13, if I'm a Cardinals fan, I'm scratching my head a bit. But you're right about one thing, Drew. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the future top receiver. He's the current, I should say, but the future is now with Marvin Harrison Jr. is what I should be saying. As for the Saints, this is a rebuild. Nothing shocking here other than the fact it was this close.
Yes, that is very true. When you have your other quarterback nearly throwing his arm off and can't even complete it, can't even hit the broadside of a barn, it seems like. 46 attempts, completing only 27 of them. They are missing Drew Brees still 5 years later. They really are.
Good call out.
With that being said, let's go ahead and take it into Game 5. And I know this team very well, Kyle Nash, just like the Jaguars, as the Commanders, got it done, winning 21-6 at home over the New York Giants. And in this game, you got to look at what good old JD did in this game. Jaden Daniels was 19-30 for 233 passing yards and a passing touchdown, along with 11 carries for 68 yards. Old Bill is what they like to call him, is what he likes to be called as well. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had 10 carries for 82 rushing yards and a touchdown. Austin Eckler, 6 carries for 26 yards, was the second leading running, for the team, but he had 6 attempts. He helped establish the flow of the offense. He gets my nod of the day. Deebo Samuel showed up because Terry McLaurin did not. Had 7 receptions for 77 receiving yards. 1 carry, though, for 19 yards and a rushing touchdown with that. Zach Ertz had 3 receptions for 26 yards and a receiving touchdown. The Commanders' total penalties, though, 12 for 89 yards. Speaking of cleaning up with the other team, the Commanders need to do the same as well, because that is not going to cut it throughout this long season. Russell Wilson was 17-37 for 168 passing yards, along with 8 carries for 44 yards because he was running for his life. Malik Neighbors added 5 receptions for 71 receiving yards, along with Wayndale Robinson's 6 receptions for 55 receiving yards for their receiving core. The Giants offense, 4 total completed attempts. Four conversions out of 16 attempts on third down. I say that again. The Giants offense had 4 completed attempts when it came to 16 of them. I said it all wrong again. It's late. But 4 out of 16 on third down, they were the Giants on third down. This is ridiculous. You have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, somebody who's supposed to still be able to get it done, and somebody who takes crab legs and Jameis. And then you have Jackson Dart, okay? You have 17 quarterbacks, and you can only muster up 4 of 16 on third down. absolutely terrible because the Commanders' defense, even though they did okay, they weren't even worthy enough for me to put the stats on there because they did okay. But come on, 4 of 16 on third down. Come on, 17 quarterbacks. Because your penalties, you only had 6 of 35. But the other team had twice the amount of penalties for twice the amount of yards, and you cannot make it happen. You got Debo over there looking like he's in his prime again. When you put all that together, Kyle Nash, and you think about how this game played out, what are your overall thoughts when looking back at this Commanders' victory at home with old Bill getting the shine, the rookie?
I'm going to put it to you this way, brother. One side has Laramie Tunsil and one doesn't. The offensive line's the difference here, my guy. If you've learned nothing throughout history, even young Russell Wilson, who was much better at running for his life because he wasn't a billion years old. Not that I should bring up Russell Wilson's age. By the way, you're a fan of the Commanders. You followed them closely the way that you do. Is Zach Ertz eligible for AARP yet? Like, good God, that man's still handling business. I love it. It's awesome. That all being said, at day's end, listen, protect your bleeding quarterback. Hello. I knew the Giants experiment was still going to fail. Giants fans keep trying to defend Coach Daboll to me, who was never the coach of the year in 22. By the way, for the record, I never even understood that. It's funny. Saquon leaves and everything goes straight to hell. Isn't that interesting? It's almost if some of us called that out as if that we knew it was going to happen. Right, Drew Willingham? Anyways, so all that being said, man, there's no way I saw this game going any different. 2-score difference makes a ton of sense. I appreciate that. The reason why it's only a 2-score game is because your Commanders, 12 penalties. That's more than the Jags had, for goodness sake, man. So granted the Jags had more yards for there, but the details, the punchline is this. I'm not trying to make this a competition. The Commanders, if they want it to be a competition, need to get fewer penalties. I don't think there's a middle ground there.
It's going to be interesting to see how things play out for them this year. It's not looking like it's going to be a positive record for them this year because they're going to be cycling through all those 17 quarterbacks, as I mentioned.
Oh,
and
so
they're going to have to figure it out.
You're trying to say that the Giants will shrink?
I know that even if they brought this guy on the team,
okay,
it wouldn't save them, okay? To those of you who are just now tuning in between X, YouTube, and Twitch.
What's that? What's
that? Oh, sorry. I thought it was my turn. My bad.
And guess what? This is going to be a Dallas Cowboys free program. No, I'm just kidding, because we have talked about them in the 2-minute drill at the end. But with all that being said, we're going to take this on into our next game of the week. And that is between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. These two teams right here. It was a pretty interesting matchup. When you have Baker Mayfield, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Atlanta Falcons, who are spending a lot of money for a quarterback to ride the bench still over there in their franchise. Looking at how this played out, 23-20. Baker Mayfield, 17-32 for 167 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. He added 5 carries on the ground for 39 yards. Bucky Irving had 14 carries for 37 yards on the day and 4 receptions for 8 yards. But he added a receiving touchdown, which is why that makes that interesting. Emeka Egbuka, I probably butchered it, but I'm sorry.
You got it right. Emeka Egbuka, correct.
Yes! Did it.
Yes!
That's what I'm talking about.
It's a tough one.
Yes! I was like, I'm going to let it roll off the tip of the tongue, see if it happens. Comes on out. And it did. 4 receptions, 67 yards for that man right there with an awesome name. 2 receiving touchdowns is what makes his day even more special because he hauled in 2 of those 3 Baker Mayfield touchdowns. Mike Evans, 5 receptions for 51 yards. Did not find the end zone, but still made an impact. The Bucs total penalties, though, 5 for 60 yards. Not too bad. They had less than the Falcons, but they had more yards and penalties, so they got to clean that unit up right there. Michael Penix Jr., 27-42 for 298 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown. not that many passing touchdowns, although he almost threw for 300 yards, but he did add 6 carries for 21 yards and a rushing touchdown. So he did his job for the best part of it he could, only losing by 3 points. Bijan Robinson had 12 carries on the day for 24 yards, but added 6 receptions for 100 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions for 59 receiving yards, and Drake London's 8 receptions for 55 yards rounded out the receiving corps. The Falcons' total penalties, although less amount of yards than their team that won against them, they had 8. You got to clean it up, Kyle Nash. You have got to clean that up, especially when you are the home team. Mercedes-Benz, you're out there in your stadium. You have your fan base out there. How can you get hype when you're giving up all these penalties and costing your team? Especially when your second-year quarterback, who didn't throw his arm off because he had 4 less pass attempts than Spencer Rattler, but he completed more of them. He had a higher completion percentage, and he had a rushing touchdown, and he had a running back that had 124 all-purpose yards. So, looking at all that, what are your overall thoughts when looking back at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and old Bunker Stayfield, as I used to call him when he was bunkering it up, but he's actually not bunkering it up because he got the win with no turnovers and 3 passing touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for clarity, this is one of those regional matchups that just may not get the respect nationally that it should, but with these two teams in the NFC South, this was a big game, even though it was only week 1. And you mentioned cleaning up the penalties. We're going to hear that a lot. I mean, we obviously had in the games we have done so far, but let's remember it's week 1 and they've reduced the preseason. This is just what's going to happen. All the above being said, this game could just as easily be the reverse next time, even though it might be over there at Raymond James Stadium, right? It's just as likely the Falcons go to the house there in Tampa and handle the Bucs in their place. This was going to be a close game either way, in my opinion. That's what we got. The most important thing for me to take away is the actual Heisman Trophy winner that year still should have been Michael Penix, and he played like that today. Made some definite plays on the field. He is not the reason his squad lost. And yeah, he did throw his arm off. He threw it 42 times. How often should you feel comfortable throwing it 42 times as a sophomore player? Nonetheless, game 1 here, they come out. The receiver corps all with excellent numbers here. And oh, by the way, Bijan Robinson, still a huge weapon. For me, the ability for the Bucs to stop the run with Vita Vea and company in the middle, I feel like that was the difference made here. And listen, when you have penalties, obviously Michael Penix, looking at his numbers, you could tell just by doing the quick math in your head that he overcame a lot of those penalties by throwing the bejesus out of the football, as you mentioned. Listen, in my opinion, nobody here needs to be hanging their heads that low. This was quality football, and a shanked field goal somewhere in here determining the outcome of this game. So, this was close football. This was tough fought football in a rivalry that is not appreciated the way it probably should be.
Did you do this when he missed the field goal?
I will confirm nor deny. But hey, listen, as critical as I am of Corey Mann's Falcons, when they lose games they shouldn't, and I'm forced to refer to them as the fraud cons, this is not one of those games. This was a matchup where the Falcons can actually hold their no moral victories. I get it, but you don't need to be ashamed of it either here. This is just a tough one. That's all there is to it if you're a Falcon fan.
He said something along the lines of this, probably.
Delete!
Because you cannot have that type of action on the field and win games. He does not want to see that. Delete it, clean it up. Got 16 games left to make it happen. And that's what we're going to see out of the Falcons, because they're going to do some pretty good things this year. I have a feeling still, because they got a pretty talented offense, and it's just going to need more time. But for what Penix Jr. did, I mean, he threw for nearly 300 yards, and it wasn't his fault that they lost.
I don't think so. Yeah,
we had a lot of good quarterback play for the most part in week 1, and even out of teams that lost. And he's one of those teams that happened to suffer the big old fat old stinking. and still put up decent numbers, Kyle Nash. So when you look at that, I have to give him his flowers. They're going to do some decent things over there in Atlanta this year, and I got my hopes up high for them. It's now time that we talk about the Battle of Ohio, Kyle Nash, because that is what we had right here. Cleveland, Cincinnati, a team that's absolutely trash historically, okay? And another team that has had some trash type years, okay? You know it, and I know it. We cannot hide from this. We just can't. But the Bengals stole the win right here, winning by a point in a game where most would say you should have been able to score more points than that. Or, and others would say, because you got Trey Hendrickson back and it's your staple of your defense, you should have been able to contain them a little bit more than what you did, especially when the opposing quarterback throws a couple interceptions your way. So, with that being said, Joe Burrow, 14 of 23 for 113 passing yards and a touchdown. Those numbers are not fitting as somebody that just a few years ago we're talking about in MVP talks pretty heavily. And every year he's projected to be the MVP in some people's eyes. But 113 passing yards. Even if he lights it up for the remaining 16 games of the season that he plays, you're going to look back at this one with 113 yards, bro. 113 yards. Yes, the Browns defense is pretty good and you got Myles Garrett, but you are Joe Burrow. You're Joe Cool. 113 yards. You barely made it in triple digits. So that's why I'm throwing that type of shade right there, because you should have been able to do better against a Browns team like what they had, because Chase Brown had 21 carries. He normally establishes the flow. Your offensive line, even though they are like human turnstiles, and they have been for quite some time, you are still Joe Burrow, who led the LSU Tigers, and you're such a great guy. You're supposed to be able to get the best out of them. Well, not when they're literally human turnstiles, letting everybody through, because on 21 carries for Chase Brown, he only had 43 rushing yards. He got the ball in the end zone one time. But still, you should be doing better than that. And I'm throwing shade at the team that won. Yes, I'm doing it because it's time that the Bengals get some shade like this, because their offensive line literally has been playing like human turnstiles for the past few years. Since they went to the Super Bowl, ever since then, they have been absolutely terrible. T. Higgins, you're paying him. You're spending so much money on your receiving core. Okay, between him and Jamar Chase. And he only gets 3 receptions for 33 yards, and Noah Fant has 4 receptions for 26 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase was literally non-existent in this game for the most part, which is why I didn't really put his stats up here in the slate. Penalties for them, 7 for 33 yards. Their defense had 2 sacks on the day and 2 interceptions by Jordan Battle and DJ Turner the second, because the 2 of them were the ones that saved this team from losing because of how bad their offense was playing. Joe Flacco on the other side gifted them with 2 presents of 2 interceptions on 1 touchdown. And he threw his arm off. As an old man, he should not be throwing 45 passes in the game, but completed 31 of them, okay? Looking at that, 31 of 45 on the day, 290 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions for the old man again. And he was running for his life, Kyle Nash. He had to run for his life twice. 6 yards. That man should not even be moving a yard. You should just let him stand there, throw the ball, and do what he was born to do. But he couldn't do that because the other team put the pressure on him, because the offense of the Browns is still in question. Dylan Sampson had 12 carries on the day for 29 yards. He did muster up 8 receptions for 64 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 5 receptions for 66 yards. Wasn't even the leading receiver, because Cedric Tillman had 5 receptions for 52 yards and got the touchdown. The Browns' total penalties, 7 for 53 yards. Same amount of penalties, but more yards it cost them than the Bengals. Looking at the Battle of Ohio, Kyle Nash, and the human turnstiles that escaped with the win. How is this season going to go for the Bengals when they're playing against like a team like the Browns that can only put up that type of production?
Yeah, first of all, I'd have lost a butt ton of money because I'm gonna always put the over on the Bengals this year. Okay, let me be clear. Even after this performance, and listen, there's a history of Joey Burr struggling with the Browns. That's a thing that happens. Okay. That being said, the Bengals defense bangled here. 9 of 16 on third down was the Browns allowed to convert on third. That's not that should not be allowed. The reason why old man Joe was still Flacco instead of Flack-No, despite the interceptions, was that you could still move the ball. You like that, Flack-No?
It made me think of another word that starts with an F before it, but I can't say that on this program.
You saw what I did there, mother father. Anyways, no, at days in, listen, a dub is a dub, and in week 17, they won't care that you scored only 17, so long as you made the playoffs. And I get that. But Joey Burr is notorious for slow starts anyway. He's notorious for struggles against the Browns. If the NFL media weren't a bunch of cowards, he would have gotten MVP votes last year. Those are facts. It ain't just about the numbers. It's about the fact that he carried that team the way they did, and they were still losing games like, 30-something to 40-something. Joey Burr would put up the games and scores in the 30s and 40s and still lose because their defense is that awful. And still somehow in a game where they had 2 picks and gave up 16, that still feels like it was the case. It's the weirdest thing. But to your point, I think you're right. Both teams did not participate in particularly great football on this game. But the AFC North, these are the physics. This is what you see in games in that division. It's still the toughest division, certainly in the AFC, if not in the entire league.
Facts. And that I will say it now, and I will say it until they actually get some help. They need to do this with the offensive line that's human turnstiles.
Stop it. Get some help.
They've chosen at this point not to do that, though. So I'm no longer sympathetic. Michael, I know you're doing a great ad campaign that is sustained by way of Surtoba for decades because it's a good method. Stop it. Get some help. You do something for yourself. Well, you didn't. You continue not to. At this point, I'm going to go to patients that actually want to fix themselves, kind of like the Jacksonville Jaguars did, as I've talked about on the Duval Dive. But all that being said, man, until you fix that O-line, you're pointless as an actual Super Bowl contender at this juncture.
Because their play is absolutely.
That's terrible.
As well as their front office. I digress. Let's take it on into the next game. And that game was between the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots, Kyle Nash. A game that if you would have asked me yesterday, I would have told you I thought the Patriots would win this one. I didn't think the Raiders were going to be able to pull this one out. They surprised me here in this matchup. And, just goes to show you the change in leadership and some rookie draft picks can change a culture a little bit over there in a team. And it did so in the Party City in Las Vegas because Geno Smith, 24-34 in pass completions out of attempts for 362 passing yards and a touchdown, along with an interception. He had 2 carries for 10 yards on the day as well. But the coming out party was for the rookie Ashton Janty, 19 carries for 38 rushing yards and a touchdown. Brock Bowers, 5 receptions for 103 yards on the day. Did not get the ball in the end zone, but still hit triple digits, which was the only player to do so on the team. So big numbers for the big man right there. Jacoby Myers, in his homecoming to New England, former Patriot, 8 receptions for 97 receiving yards. Trey Tucker had 2 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown, which rounded out the production for the Raiders offense. The penalties, there's something like other teams we've discussed. They got to clean it up. 9 for 81 yards on the day. The Raiders defense helped keep them in contention with the 4 sacks and the pressure on Drake May in the day. Yeah, that's a rhyme. Nice, Drake May in the day. But with the interception by a man, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but I'm going to give it my best shot, Kyle Nash. Isaiah Polabel.
Yeah. You know what? I'll allow it.
Nice! So I'm talking about. We are hype after midnight because Isaiah Polamau is in the house with his interception for the Raiders. Drake May, as we spoke of, another quarterback who nearly threw his arm off on Sunday. 30 pass completions out of 46 attempts for 287 passing yards. He had a touchdown and interception with 4 carries and 11 rushing yards on the day for the losing team in New England. Travion Henderson was his first game as a professional coming out of college with Ohio State and is also a local kid here from where I'm at in Virginia, as he grew up in Hopewell and played for Hopewell High School, made his debut. 5 carries for 27 yards on the day with 6 receptions for 24 yards. Our guy had over 50 all-purpose yards on the day. As a rookie in his first game, you can't ask for much more than that because the team should be able to help you out a little bit more than what they did, and they didn't because you let your quarterback nearly throw his arm off, Kyle Nash. I can't say the same about the receivers, though they tried their best. Because Kayshon Boutte, 6 receptions for 103 receiving yards, along with Hunter Henry's 4 receptions for 66 yards. You had production from your receivers, but your quarterback wanted to fumble the football with an interception to the other team. Drake May did that when he handed the keys over to the Raiders with that pick. They had 9 penalties for 70 yards on the day over there in New England, along with 4 sacks. 4 sacks, just like the Raiders. Put up the pressure. And they also had an interception by Jalen Hawkins, but they lost the game. Looking at how this played out, the rookie Ashton Jandy getting the win with the Raiders. What are your overall thoughts for the Raiders in this game and what they can do moving forward?
Well, and listen, you mentioned a lot of the defensive stats, even 10 tackles for loss. Not a very impressive day for Ashton Jeanty. I get it. There's still many more games to come, but yeah, you're not able to run against the Patriots is curious. That either says more about them than you or vice versa. We'll learn more throughout the year. But you already know my response because you heard it in the form of Sam Howell a while back in the In-N-Out Sports Debate Show. And that's ACC quarterbacks, my friend. Drake May was never a bona fide starter in my eyes. I did not enjoy that the Patriots drafted him. I never thought he was a fit, and now they're in the running to be the top overall pick in the upcoming draft. I think that's true. It's I appreciate that Coach Vrabel has a stout group up front. That's not shocking. Less shocking is Drake May suffering. And you mentioned going into this game, you had mentioned something about, your approach to it. Going into this game, if you paid me, I'm not sure I would have wanted to watch it. But yeah, you beat the Patriots, Raiders. Great job. Thank you. I guess something, whatever. Please draft somebody not Drake May next year. Thank you.
You and your hatred for those quarterbacks that come out of that division, Kyle Nash. I'm starting to see where you're coming from a little bit. I was drinking too much of the Sam Howell Kool-Aid, and you were throwing the shade with 2 L's. At the time, it was not fully clicking, okay? Life was different then, Kyle Nash, but I still tried my best. All right? Still tried my best, man. And now here we are. I accept it for what it is. We are here for episode 100. But when we first started this damn show, and I can say damn on the internet, all right, that's the only cuss word you will get. They can say it on ESPN, NBC, Fox. They can say it everywhere. I'll say it once or maybe one other time. But right now, Kyle had to bring up Sam Howell with 2 L's and get me even more hype than what I was before we started this show. You cannot compare Ashton Jeanty to Sam Howell.
I'm not.
Or even come close with speaking about him in the same argument as Ashton Jeanty. You cannot do it, Kyle Nash, because he did not deserve it. It's his first NFL game.
Exactly. I made that point, right? I see a bright future for Ashton Jeanty. That's cool. I think his only problem, he's playing for the Raiders. Drake May isn't helping the Chiefs win. You catch my meaning? Like that's not a thing that's happening. Drake May couldn't get scoring with the Chargers. offensive receiver core. Like, I could keep going if you need me to.
One thing I'll say is that none of these players that you're mentioning have the Eli Manning pool. Okay. They cannot just, when they get drafted, decide where they want to go. All right. And dictate where they're going to. It doesn't work that way. If that was the case, we would have a huge problem in the future to where anybody that comes out of college is just a free agent, can sign anywhere. And then you have super teams like LeBron James and the Miami Heat from back in the day. It's unfair to the NBA and unfair to the NFL.
With Chicago. If you're going to bring up super teams, please, let's talk about what Jerry Krause did to make one of the best franchises. Do better, Drew. Come on now. Come on, man. Come on, man.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, he was the worst thing that Jerry Krause did was sucker Pippen into that contract. Because had Pippen not signed that type of contract that he did, they wouldn't have even had the cash flow to assemble that type of team. So they talked about that in the documentary. So when you think about that, it's more so had Scotty actually been able to sign the value for what he was worth for the upcoming years with the Bulls and got paid what he should have been, like Michael was, then that team would not have had the money to spread around to Rodman and the others to be able to contend for the second three-peat. So that's a bigger story with that.
Sure,
but
yeah,
we're in football.
they're still a super team. That's the point. I don't care how.
Yes. But the NFL is structured differently, and it's for reasons like this of why we see that, because you have a player that shouldn't be playing for the Raiders actually on the Raiders.
Well, hey, I'll put it this way. I don't mean to imply it's the player's fault with Drake May. I'm just saying the Patriots never should have drafted him. That's where I'm at.
Oh, the Patriots, yes.
Yes, of course. With Drake May in particular. Now, Ashton Genty, I mean, again, I'm not blaming Ashton Genty, but you thought a running back was what you needed to get better right now. Cool.
Regardless, you got a lot more picks to make over there to get that team to where they can do this consecutively in consecutive weeks against actual teams that they're going to be competitive with them, because the Patriots still have a long ways to go. I think the Patriots have a lot more work to do based on what we saw in this game than what the Raiders do.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
The Raiders still have a pretty decent defense for the most part. They have a better defense than the Patriots than what we saw today.
After even losing Christian Wilkins, that's still true. You're absolutely right.
And you still have some turnstiles over there on the offensive line. Not quite as bad as the Bengals, or not quite as bad, but you still have. That bar is in hell,
Willingham. That bar is in hell. Okay.
I'm trying. All right. I'm trying. But it's just, you know how it is. All right. Regardless, I'm trying to save them from taking the. And today they didn't take one, so it doesn't even get warranted for the full play of the L. But for today, moving forward, you got to clean some things up. They got to clean up those penalties, and they got to do a little bit more work around in order for the Raiders to be a team that Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II can be proud of as an owner or minority owner of said Raiders franchise. Now moving on to a team that Kyle Nash and his boyhood dream to play for the San Francisco 49ers, his team that he is a big homer for. But I must say, before I go any further, Kyle Nash is not a super homer. He doesn't pick them to win like some other people we know with this certain team right here, Kyle Nash. You know it, and I know it, all right? We've had many discussion on the air of super homers and their teams, all right? And
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, super homers. You are not one. Tonight, in honor of Super Homer, you get to look at this and be proud of said team as we discuss a win. They were the first of 4 o'clock games that we had today. Between them and the Seahawks, they won 17-13. And Brock Purdy, 26-35 on the day for 277 passing yards, had 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions, but it didn't cost him as they were able to win this game. He did have 5 carries for 17 yards on the ground, along with Christian McCaffrey, who had 22 carries for 69 rushing yards. He had 9 receptions for 73 yards as well. Ricky Pearsall had 4 receptions for 108 yards as your leading receiver, but George Kittle was able to muster up 4 receptions for 25 yards and a touchdown. Another team that did kind of get away with the penalties a little bit on the day. They had 9 for 61 yards. Hurt them a little bit, which is why this game was a little closer, in my opinion, than it should have been, because they had the ball for 37 minutes and 58 seconds for total time of possession. Their defense mustered up 1 sack and 2 fumble recoveries. When you got Nick Bosa, I feel like you should be able to get a little bit more out of your defense over there. And even though you got the win, I feel like that they had a little bit more work to do on this day.
Well, he and Fred, for show note, he and Fred Warner were both nicked up in the game, so that's worth mentioning.
And I'm glad that when my serve up, you spiked it over the net. That's what I was looking for. Kyle Nash absolutely crushed it. 16-23 for Sam Darnold, a quarterback that used to be over there in San Francisco for a little bit. Learned a few things from the Shanahan master, the Shanahan guru of the other Shanahan 2.0. All right. Learned the work of the master, the Miyagi of quarterbacks, Shanahan, as he has a Mr. Irrelevant pretty much with Brock Purdy leading the way. Now, Sam Darnold, 16-23, 150 yards with 2 carries for 14 rushing yards. That was all he was able to muster up for the losing effort, but they were pretty close in the game by only losing by 4 points. Zach Charbonnet, 12 carries for 47 rushing yards, had 1 rushing touchdown. Jackson Smith-Njigba had 9 receptions for 124 receiving yards, along with Cooper Kupp, who had 2 receptions for 15 yards. Jason Myers, the field goal kicker, completed 2 field goals out of 2 attempts, with 7 total points on the day. With Cooper Kupp in his new home in Seattle, and they hung pretty close with the 49ers, who are a pretty tough team to hang with, especially when you have a rebuilding team within the organization of the Seattle Seahawks. When you put all that together and the outcome that we saw today, what are your overall thoughts with looking at your childhood team and the victory?
I appreciate you being this nice to everybody involved here in this particular game, Drew Willingham, but regardless of my fanhood, my facthood forces me to say that this game does, despite the W, only tell me that the Niners aren't a playoff team, or at least not yet. Brock Purdy should not have been given the bag, though I like his contract based on other quarterbacks who have gotten the bag in question. Brock Purdy was not the dude that should have been retained, and it's games like this that make me come to that conclusion. You can't turn the ball over like that and expect the defense to bail you out every time. And they just aren't playing a good football team. I'm sorry. People want to tell me about the Seahawks being scary. I haven't seen it. Granted, it makes more sense than Geno Smith and the Raiders becoming world beaters suddenly. But at day's end, listen. And I mention Geno Smith in particular because the former Seattle quarterback has the former Seattle coach and Pete Carroll all there in the Raiders, right? They're in Vegas now. That's the whole exchange. But the punchline's this. When you're revamping your team, your main receivers are gone. DK Metcalf, main example here for the Seahawks. You got to be able to win games when you're handed the ball twice by the other quarterback. And that just didn't happen here. You know, I'm not here to say that Darnold had a bad game, but milquetoast. Right? 17 for 23 for 150 is milquetoast performance. Period. Maybe the Niners had something to do with that. Maybe 2 turnovers had that they forced have something to do with that. But nonetheless, I am this unimpressed by Seattle. I've said that the NFC West is a 2-team race since June? Those being the Niners and the Rams, but I think the Rams win the day. Of course, how viable that is, we'll talk about that later.
Very, very true, because looking at this team right here, the Seahawks in rebuilding mode, big rebuilding mode. But you said something that was key just a minute ago about Brock Purdy and getting that bag, and maybe it was too much too soon, because even though you invested in a quarterback that you thought can be your future, you still have a lot of question marks at other positions that you need help within this organization. And like you pointed out, they still have a lot more things they got to show us in order to prove that we can believe in them as a real threat to even make the playoffs, let alone actually do anything if they get there. So a lot that can be said for them, and a lot can be said moving forward. And we'll bring that up as time goes on. But for now, we're going to take this into the next game within the 4 o'clock slate. And finally, we get to the Broncos matchup because we had a comment earlier that we're going to bring back up on the screen. The Denver Broncos winning at home 20-12 over the debuting number 1 overall pick in Cam Ward for the Titans there, Kyle Nash. And looking at this, 20-12, losing by 8 points in your first matchup. It doesn't look like a lot. It's a possession, but there was a lot of pressure that was on Cam Ward throughout the day. We talk about the Bengals, talk about how bad that offensive line was. Same argument can be made for the Titans. Bo Nix for the Broncos, 25 of 40 on the day. Another quarterback nearly threw his arm off.
Yeah.
He had 176 passing yards, a touchdown. He did turn the ball over twice. To most teams, when you turn the ball over twice, we just talked about the 49ers got lucky with the 2 that Brock Purdy had. This is another team that was able to squeak by when they were making mistakes throughout the game. He also had 8 carries for 18 yards as well. R.J. Harvey, 6 carries for 70 yards, along with the man I've always called on this program, Just Kidding Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins, 16 carries for 63 yards. Wasn't kidding on this day, Kyle Nash. He got in the end zone. He got a rushing touchdown. And somebody else who isn't kidding anymore, somebody who hasn't really shown up much for the Broncos but did on this day, Cortland Sutton, 6 receptions for 61 yards and a receiving touchdown. Troy Franklin, 4 receptions for 44 yards, rounds out their receiving core. Broncos defense, 6 sacks, which led the way for the entire NFL on Sunday for the team that had the most amount of sacks. 6, as well as 2 fumble recoveries. Will Lutz had 2 completed field goals out of 2 attempts. The former New Orleans Saint put up 8 points in this game. Speaking of Cam Ward for the losing team, Tennessee Titans, he was 12 for 28 out of completions out of attempts for only 112 yards. A lot of that being because of the fact, just like the Bengals, you got human turnstiles for your offensive line. Tony Pollard ran the ball 18 times, but on those 18 carries only mustered up 60 yards per total complete. 60 yards on the ground out of 18 attempts. That's not even 5 yards per carry. He's like getting 2.5 yards per carry. That's pretty bad, Kyle Nash. 1 reception for 29 yards. I'm happy for you for that 1 catch, bro. But for the rest of it, it was pretty tough to watch. Calvin Ridley showed up for reception, but only had 27 yards because the defense was literally in his face no matter where he moved. And yes, I'm stalling because we have another one at our fingertips. I'm going to just let it flow off the tip of the tongue, and I'm going to butcher the expletive out of this name, but I'm going to try my best, Kyle Nash, as we are live. It's after midnight. We're having fun. Chigoziem Okonkwo. Okonkwo. I was thinking Taekwondo. Miyagi Visual.
You got the Chigoziem part. See, I thought that was the tough part. But you got the Chigoziem good. But yeah, Okonkwo.
Okay, so I'm talking about learning as we go. That man, sorry for the butchering of your name. Glad I got your first name right. But your stats were 3 receptions for 19 yards on the day. Titans total penalties, 13.
Yeah.
13 total penalties for 131 yards. Kyle Nash, did the Titans even study the playbook before they showed up today?
Well, right. And I mean, that's the biggest difficulty. You mentioned the offensive line and you mentioned Cam Ward. Yeah, he's not playing for Mario Cristobal anymore, a guy who regularly has awesome offensive lines and currently a higher differential of skill in his favor in the trenches compared to his opponents typically, especially in the sorry ACC. Uh-oh. Did I hit the theme again? No. But that all being said, I have more faith in Cam Ward than I do a lot of the others lately. That doesn't mean he's going to be successful necessarily. Let's be honest. As much fun as we made of Will Levis too, can we acknowledge too that the franchise is the damn problem as well? And let's defend Bo Nix a little bit. The one part of the ball that the Titans do pretty well is defense. Jeffrey Simmons is a scary human being. I have seen this man on a regular basis as he plays the Jacksonville Jaguars twice a year. And the whole thing is him up front makes things very dangerous up front. But listen, if you're surprised that the Broncos defense won this game, This is how the Broncos play. This is what the Broncos team is. Hinting that Sean Payton should be fired. Somebody's been in the gummies. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Are you blaming him for Bo Nix? I'm not there yet. I don't know. One bad game does not a season make. And that goes for both teams too. Let's be clear. Hey, I've picked the Titans to finish third in the AFC South ahead of the Colts. But if we look at all the results from week 1, I look insane. It's a marathon, not a sprint, though, Drew Willingham. I would remind everybody.
Absolutely. I'm going to second the gummies for comment situation, because this right here, when you are saying fire Sean Payton, the man got you the dub today. What in the expletive are you talking about out here? Talking about a man who needs to be fired after a win. This is not the Dallas Cowboys and Jimmy Johnson, okay? That is the only other situation. It may be Billy Martin of the New York Yankees for baseball that I can really think of where somebody has just been excommunicated from a franchise after having a winning season. Daniel Miller, you bring in the comment. I respect it as much to bring it on the screen and not completely throw but so much shade. What I am going to say is this. Why? Explain yourself here in the comments, because you know it as much as we know it. You got to add some context to it. You got to let us know what in the expletive you are talking about. I need to know, and so does Kyle Nash, because we are not messing around out here in these streams. Thank you, Daniel Miller.
Yes, now that we thrown all the shade at you, thank you, Daniel.
Yes, you brought it with the fire. You started. We didn't start the fire, but you did.
I absolutely did. Yeah. Well, I'll go for a hailstorm. I am the fire. That's what happened there. I was the fire. I started.
You are the fire. Daniel brought the fire with the comment. We still have a few more games we got to look at here within the slate. This was game 10. Let's go ahead and take it on into the next one out of 13. The next one, we got to talk about a division matchup here between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay winning this one 27-13, despite a lot of Detroit Lions fans throwing a lot of shade leading up to this game, saying, in quote, "We got this." But you didn't, because you lost by 2 possessions. You were on the road and you were at Lambeau Field. But you didn't get it done here on this day, as you lost 27-13 to the hands of Jordan Love, who was 16-22 for 188 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 3 carries on the day for 4 yards, but we're going to steer clear of that one for right now. Josh Jacobs, 19 carries for 66 rushing yards and a passing touchdown. Wait, hang on. I said a passing touchdown. I was thinking of Jordan Love and 3 carries for 4 yards, got stumbled all up. That is why I'm going to nominate myself as an honorable mention for Snowflake of the Week. Now, Josh Jacobs, again, 19 carries for 66 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. He did have 1 reception for 4 yards, along with Romeo Doubs, who had 2 receptions for 68 yards, and Jaden Reed, who had 3 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. For the Packers defense, they had 4 sacks on the day and an interception by Evan Williams. Not the liquor, okay? Not the liquor. You can go buy that bottom shelf stuff all you want to, but he's not here to save you. Another Evan Williams was. He showed up and absolutely crushed it again. Not Jim Leahy, not the liquor. Brandon McManus, 2 completed field goals out of 2 attempts with 9 total points on the day. Jared Goff for the losing team, 31 completed passes out of 39 attempts for 225 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. David Montgomery, half of Sonic and Knuckles, 11 carries for 25 completed rushing yards. He did have 4 receptions for 18 yards. Getting some action on this day. Sam Laporta, 6 receptions for 79 receiving yards, along with Amon-Ra St. Brown's 4 receptions for 45 yards, rounds out your receiving core for the Lions. Total penalties, though, 7 for 40 yards, hurt them on the day with their production. The field goal kicker got the most action, though. He had 2 completed field goals out of 2 attempts, putting up 7 of the Detroit Lions' 13 points. Looking back at this game, looking back at Not the Liquor, what are your overall thoughts of this, Kyle Nash?
You know, it's not often you get this from a Man Campbell coach team, but the run game was supplanted, right? I mean, you know, first of all, if you're referred to as Sonic and Knuckles on every coin toss, do you call tails?
That's a good question.
I'm just asking. But the real answer is they didn't even cast a shadow in the run game. Boom! Woo! Sega smack. But no, the punchline's this. Obviously, that's all this is. And listen, man, it's the NFC North. These rivalries are older than all of us. This rivalry is older than my dad. Okay? So, well, or at least the one with the Bears is back when they were still the Decatur Staleys #history. But it's week 1. It sucks. I know we're expecting some pullback from the Lions, perhaps, if depending on who you are as an analyst, and that's okay. But yeah, I'm not panicked yet here. They just stopped the run that well, and they'll need to do something about it. There's really nothing more I could add here. Lions penalties as well. Granted, fewer than some of the other teams we've talked about on the docket here so far, Drew Willingham, but like, this is all that happened to it, man. These are 2 of the top teams in the NFC still, regardless.
Very, very true. I could not have said that any better, because this team and the Lions, they got to tighten up. There was a lot of praise for them a year ago going to the Super Bowl, and they laid an egg in the playoffs, even though they were banged up with Aiden Hutchinson and others being hurt.
Yeah, that's sort of.
But they're healthy now, and you're going up against a squad in the Green Bay Packers that, yes, they've retooled a little bit with bringing in Micah Parsons. He showed up a little bit in this game, but still, you know, I feel like the Lions should have been a little bit more competitive than what they were here. And it was kind of a big letdown. And this game can affect them later on in the year, as I was talking about games that can affect you division-wise. We're going for a division title, and the Lions not making it happen here in Green Bay. The next game we have final one of the 4 p.m. games between the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams winning this home game 14-9 on the back of Matthew Stafford, who put up 21 completions out of 29 attempts for 245 yards and a passing touchdown. Kieran Williams added 18 carries for 66 rushing yards and a touchdown, along with 1 reception for 3 yards on the day. Looking at Puka Nacua, the big contributor for this team, 10 receptions for 130 receiving yards, along with Devontae Adams, who had 4 receptions for 51 yards to round out the receivers on this team. The Rams' total penalties, 7 for 60 yards on the day. Their defense put up 3 sacks with a fumble recovery and an interception by Kobe Durant. C.J. Stroud, looks like all the hype is starting to go out the window, as he had 19 completions out of 27 attempts for 188 passing yards and an interception, along with 5 carries for 32 yards on the day. Former Cleveland Brown Nick Chubb, 13 carries for 60 rushing yards. The receivers didn't even show up on this day, not even worthy to talk about, because the total penalties for the Texans, 9 for 105 yards, which definitely hurt them big time, even though their kicker, Ka'imi Fairbairn, tried to literally kick them to victory with 3 completed field goals out of 3 attempts, contributing to all 9 points for the Houston Texans. Kyle Nash, are they the dumpster Pelicans of the week, that being the team from Houston?
Ooh, boy. That's close, but I'm not going to put them all the way to the bottom. Yeah, but listen, all we saw here was 2 defensive teams battling each other. I know with Puka Nacua and John Matthew Stafford on the Rams, you wouldn't think that necessarily, but that defense is noise. That Texans defense is noise. But see, C.J. Stroud, once again, putting up similar numbers to Trevor Lawrence, and yet being the golden child. Oh, he's so much better. I'm sorry. Facts of the case are these, and they're not in dispute. His numbers were just the same as Daniel Jones's, if you're one of those listening to that trash meme. Punchline's this. The reason why I bring that up is CJ Stroud did not get the support today that Trevor Lawrence did in his game. You losing a close one with low scoring, the Jaguars blow out their opposition. It's the only difference. That and the fact that John Matthew Stafford is way better than Bryce Young. Okay, let's keep it a buck. I only mention those two in conjunction because I keep hearing about the Texans being the favorite in the AFC South, and also the Rams in the NFC North. These are two division favorites playing each other, and these defenses slobber knockered the bejesus out of each other. I just, that's. I don't know that it's a bad thing. It's just what happened. And by the way, 9 penalties. Damn. Anyways, so I'll leave that at that.
Bro, it was a lot. It was a lot of penalties. But yes, they do have a pretty nasty defense over there. But, I mean, with all the hype, CJ Stroud, what he did 2 seasons ago, he had a tough year, sophomore season last year. Wasn't what we had expected coming off of the year that he had in his first one. And for him to come out here and literally lay an egg like he did, you relied on your field goal kicker to put up points the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
You should have been able to put your team in position to either A, run it in, or B, you flip at the wrist and you get the ball in the end zone. And that's the way that I look at it for the Texans. They're letting me down. All the hype we have put on them here on Total Football Talk, and you are letting me down. With that being said, it's now time to take it to the Sunday Night Football game. And that was between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. This game was pretty high scoring because both defenses struggled against both of these offenses. Looking at how this game went, Lamar Jackson, 14 of 19 on the day for 210 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He did have 5 carries for 57 yards, along with a rushing touchdown on the day. Looking at Derrick Henry, the king of this team right here, which is why he is on the graphic, because he led the game with his stats. 18 carries for 167 rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns, and 1 reception for 13 yards. Looking at that, he nearly had 200 all-purpose yards between rushing and receiving. And with those type of numbers, along with your quarterback getting it in the end zone and not turning the ball over, you should be winning this game, as you were in the fourth quarter, by over 2 possessions. You're winning by 15 points, 40-25, going deep into the fourth quarter. Now, Zay Flowers, he also had a wasted attempt with that Baltimore Ravens, 7 receptions for 143 receiving yards and a touchdown, along with DeAndre Hopkins, who finally showed back up in the NFL with 1 reception for 29 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was big. So I didn't think he was going to show up in this game. It wasn't looking good until the very end when he caught that touchdown. Tyler Loop added 2 completed field goals out of 2 attempts for 10 total points. Josh Allen on the other side, 33 of 46 for 394 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, along with 14 carries for 30 yards and 2 touchdowns. 4 total touchdowns. This man is the reason why they won the game. Because with the other side, the stats that I mentioned, any other team in the league would win a game with those type of stats. But they didn't, because their defense let them down. James Cook, 13 carries for 44 rushing yards and a touchdown, along with 5 receptions for 58 yards, are a big part of why this offense, along with Josh Allen, were able to establish themselves. Keon Coleman followed suit with 8 receptions for 112 receiving yards and a touchdown. Absolutely crushed it out there in this game. And he did it because of the leadership of Josh Allen now in year 9. He also had help from Dalton Kincaid, who had 4 receptions for 48 yards and a receiving touchdown. Matt Prater showed up, just got signed this week. 3 completed field goals out of 3 attempts for 11 total points, helping this team with the game-winning field goal at the end to win it before the clock expired. What are your overall thoughts, Kyle Nash, when looking at the Sunday Night Football event where neither of the defenses really wanted to play with them much.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I'm not here to say that the defenses are beyond criticism here, but good Lord, Drew Willingham, can we acknowledge the fact that two former MVP and last year the top two MVP candidates of the effing NFL were doing combat mortal in this game?
Yes.
Can we please put some shine on these passers? These are the two guys I hear complained about most in the damn league right now, and they're two of the best. It blows my entire damn mind. Meanwhile, we got to crown C.J. Stroud. I mean, listen, I'm going to try to throw no damn shade at Patrick LeVon Mahomes II because he's Patrick LeVon Mahomes II, and he lost his game. I think the only guy that might take more criticism than these two is Justin Herbert. Okay, sure. In the same way that Peyton Manning did before he got his Super Bowls. No problem. Keep going after that, young man. That's fine. I'll get to talk about that a lot more on the Bolt Blitz Uncut as the season goes on. But can we just acknowledge that the reason why this game looked like it was drunk while having 5 gummies and under the influence of an antihistamine is...
Holy crap.
Yeah. This is how crazy that game looks, son. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's a horrific combination.
Yes. And if you're those defenses, that's the state of being you're stuck in. What the hell do I even try to do? I don't want to tackle James Cook or Josh Allen, just like I don't want to try to tackle Lamar, Demetrius Jackson, or Derrick Henry. I should know Derrick. Well, no, not yet. Let him get a Super Bowl first. But when he retires, if he doesn't have a Super Bowl, I'll learn his middle name there. But the punchline is, man, these offenses, put some spec on these names. Yeah, sure, the defenses were not good tonight, but I'm willing to allow an excuse on this one, Drew Willingham.
Holy crap. Kyle Nash just dropped it.
Acknowledge me.
For some respect. And I'm going to have to step down and allow that to happen. Even though that's a lot of points.
A lot of yards.
Both teams gave up.
For sure.
Both defenses. The offenses played great, especially by the two MVP candidates. But both defenses deserve to take the... You know it, and I know it. With that being said, it's our Sunday night coverage here for the NFL. We're taking to our one and only commercial break. And when we come back, we'll do a quick preview for week 2 and the one remaining week 1 game. We'll see you here on the other side of the one and only commercial break video.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989 on 2 on 2 on 2. Ready? Ready.
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Join Ryan McCarthy.
I became a Jets fan because Kermit the Frog was my favorite Muppet because he was green, and the Jets wore green. That's how I became a Jets fan.
And Dustin Henry.
ESPN is cashing all in on let's pay a few personalities and we'll just kind of fill in the gaps.
As they walk you through all of the world of sports from their perspective.
The Albany Empire, it's a literal circus.
No credentials required. Where, Ryan, say the tag.
Where you don't need a press pass to talk sports.
Live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on YouTube and where you can find podcasts.
Hey, what's good, everybody? This your boy Corey, host of The Grind, where we talk about all things WWE. You can catch The Grind every single Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sertoba Media. If you're not following Sertoba Media, then what are you doing? Like, share, subscribe. There are many different things that we have available on Sertoba Media for your viewing pleasure. And what else you got to do on a Saturday afternoon? Come spend some time with me. Come spend some time with my colleagues on this platform. Help us be able to bring everything that you all want to see. Matter of fact, you know what? If you ain't did it yet, I got something for you. Stay true to what you do. Stay true to why you do, and always stay true to you.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Do you like talking sports? Do you like entertainment? Do you like the occasional series of heated discussions?
Are you in and out, Drew?
With that said,
Drew, I'm hearing a bunch of stuff in your mind. I know you know this team very well. Are you in and out, my friend?
Then you must see this. Drew Willingham versus random panelists. Who wins? You decide on the In or Out Sports Debate. Live. Whenever the we feel like it. Eastern Standard Time. Exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
No, not tonight. We're not going to do the awards tonight because it's already late. We still have got to preview these upcoming games real quick. Kyle Nash and myself, Drew Willingham, back from the one and only commercial break. And I know you love that last commercial we saw on the way back because they start whenever the expletive they feel like it. Now,
that's right.
With that being said, let's go ahead and take it on into the 2-minute drill and take a look at the games that we have for the remainder of this week. On out with this week 2 matchup right here, Kyle Nash. Oh, actually, no. You know what? I clicked the wrong one because we still have a game left in this week. We still have a Monday Night Football game that we have to look at, Kyle. This game right here between 2 teams, the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Who wins this game?
Yeah, this is probably the most confusing one of the week so far, too, man. Like the fact that I have no idea what to expect from J.J. McCarthy. The only reason I'm picking the Vikings on the road to beat the Bears is the fact they have Justin Jefferson. Beyond all that, I have no idea. I expect it to be close. I could be wrong. But, yeah, Monday night action. I know it's a big deal for the NFC North. These are 2 storied teams for the NFL, obviously. But, yeah, I'll go Vikings for the moment. You know, again, without knowing what J.J. McCarthy is, the Vikings only know because they've been in camp with him. And they still really don't know completely, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. And I'm not prepared to believe in the guy that should have been second place to Michael Penix for his Heisman Trophy.
Very true.
Yeah, so it's with all the unrest between him and his head coach currently, I'm just not ready to think they have enough to get that week 1 dub.
I'm going to agree with you on this one because of Fingernail Man and his inconsistencies. You got to look at that for what it is. I don't know if he's improved much over the offseason. We could stand corrected tomorrow night, but I'm going with Minnesota Vikings as well.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And now we can officially take it to week 2. I jumped ahead a little bit, Kyle Nash.
No. Man, listen, it's late. I get it. We're good.
I clicked the wrong one, but
we've all done it.
In forgiveness, we are back with the right one here for Thursday night football. My Commanders are here in Green Bay to take on the Green Bay Packers. Thursday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. Do you think my commies can get it done?
I think they will cover. I don't think they will win.
Okay.
You know, by this time here, Micah Parsons should be more into the fold. More of that should be a real thing. They had an excellent job stopping the run against the not against the Packers, against the Lions. They are the Packers against the Lions. They slowed Sonic and Knuckles. I made all those dad jokes, and I already forgot who the hell I was talking about. But so no, with that in mind, it's not that I have a lack of confidence in your commies. You know, your Red Tails, I mean Commanders, will still be a force in the NFC East. That bar's in hell, but they'll still be a force in the NFC East. So, I mean, you saw the Cowboys, man. It's not your team's fault. That it's the Cowboys and the Giants, and then the Eagles and you. Like that's it, man. You know, the pendulum swings wide in that division, is what I'm telling you. And your commies are still going to be a playoff team, whether they win this game or not, in my opinion, as of today. But nonetheless, they are not victorious on this short turnaround week in particular.
I'll admit there are some question marks that I have, especially with the amount of penalties that they had against the Giants. And when you're doing that against a team like that, as well as, you know, you got a lot of young players, you know, you got old Bill that we talked about earlier. JD's in his second year. You know, he did pretty good in the first game, but this is going to be your first true test of the season against a Green Bay Packers team. They recently just upgraded their defense. So because of that, I'm going to have to agree with you here. I don't like picking against them, but I also don't want to be a true homer and just mega homer pick them and say they're going to win. I'll be pleasantly surprised if they win this game and sit here next week and, you know, stew in my bad pick. But I'll be happy that I was wrong at the same time. So either way, it's a win-win situation, Kyle Nash. You know it, and I know it. Now time to take it on into the next game.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
And that is the entire 1 p.m. game slate for the week. And it looks a little bit like that. We're going to start with the first one, the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. Who wins this one, Kyle Nash?
Good God, as bad as the Giants looked, the Cowboys, I have to think, at least flirt with victory. I know that they kept it close against an Eagles team that was just kind of falling apart anyway. Sure. I'll you got trash versus poo. I'm going to pick trash at home in Dallas. There you go.
Okay. I'm going to agree with you because the Giants and their 17 quarterbacks are really having a tough time right now.
Yes.
We are both going to agree that the Dallas Cowboys win this game at home.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Our next one, the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another 1 o'clock game. Who wins this one, Kyle Nash? Aaron Rodgers get a second straight win?
We're seeing the Seahawks struggle against Brock Purdy. I can only expect to see more of the same against the Steelers in that group. Revamped receiver core, all of it. So, yeah, give me the Steelers in this one.
I'll agree with you as well. The Seahawks still rebuilding, still have a long ways to go in order to beat teams like the Steelers because they're going to have to find ways to lean. The Steelers themselves are going to have to find more ways to lean on their defense as the season goes on. And I think that they're going to start finding ways to do that against a team like the Seahawks. I agree with you. I got the Steelers winning as well.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Next up, Los Angeles Rams and Tennessee Titans. Do the Rams get their second straight win? And do we see Cam Ward fall on his face a second straight week?
That's right. 2-0 against the AFC South. After this one, the Rams come in, show Cam give Cam the business, and go to 2-0 as they work out their continued kinks moving on in their schedule.
I agree. They're going to be 0-2 to start the year. No big surprise there in Tennessee, but the Rams will remain hot with a second straight win.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
All right, big-time divisional matchup here. Buffalo Bills, New York Jets. Who wins this game, Kyle Nash, and why?
Both of them off of a big game opening up. I have more faith in the Jets than I have in a while. Still, it's hard for me to believe that they handle the business against Josh Allen and company. Give me the Bills for now. I'm inclined to change my mind after I see the injury report throughout the week.
I'm going to disagree here for the first time in these picks. I'm going to go with the Jets. I feel like I saw enough in the game against the Steelers that with a team like the Bills, you're going to be coming off of a high with having to score that amount of points. You're not going to be able to give that amount of points up to this Jets defense, or the Jets are not going to give up that amount of points to the Buffalo Bills, who would need that much to beat them. I'm going to take the upset here and where most people won't and say the Jets win at home this week at 1 o'clock.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
Our next game up on the slate, Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions in Detroit at Ford Field. Do the Bears win this one after the Monday night game in which we did not see them win? Do you think they go 0-2 here at this point against the Lions, or will the Lions be 0-2 after this game?
I don't see the Lions going 0-2 here. So yeah, I'm going to have them secure the win. Again, to your point, sight unseen. But yeah, I'm going to go with Man Campbell over a dude that paints his fingernails all day.
I am going to agree with you based on what you just said for the last statement. That absolutely crushed it with that. Even if I was thinking about something else, the Lions are going to be a little bit angry based on the way that they lost to the Green Bay Packers, and they're going to take it all out on the Chicago Bears. The Lions win this game by at least a touchdown and nothing less.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Our next game up that we have is the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins, another divisional matchup. Do the Dolphins turn this around and get their first win of the year, or will it be the Patriots?
You know, I'm going to take the controversial take on this one. I got the Patriots on the road, traditionally playing terrible there in South Beach. I think that the Dolphins might be the only team that will play worse at South Beach than the Patriots normally do.
I like your take on that, because based on what we saw out of the Dolphins offense, I'm not sold on them being able to go against a team like the Patriots, who have a little bit better of a defense than their offense at this point. I'm going to take your take and agree with it and go with the Dolphins.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And now a team that you cover, the Jacksonville Jaguars, go into Cincinnati to face the human turnstile offensive line of the Bengals. Do the Jags defense put enough pressure on the Bengals to give them their first loss, and the Jags stay perfect?
Yeah, this is tough for me, mostly because I know only one of these teams will play defense, but I know only one of these teams also has Joey Burr. So there's that. For me, I'm going to take today, and I might change my mind by the time we get to the Duval Dive on Wednesday. But today, I'm taking the Bengals. The real winners, though, Drew, take the over. This is going to be a fireworks show.
Okay. I'm going to say the Bengals lose.
Oh, wow.
To the Jags. And
By the way, if I blow this will be up there with me calling Winnie the Pooh holes when you said he wouldn't break the record. This
yes.
is your redemption if you get this right.
This would be fan mother father and tastic. I'm going with the Jags. You're going with the Bengals in this matchup.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And now your boyhood heroes, the 49ers, challenge the Saints in New Orleans. Do they beat up on the Saints worse than they got rattled this week for the New Orleans Saints? Or do the Saints have the upset win here in their house?
That's right. The Niners will be the one who are the rattlers at the day's end. And I'm going to have a rough Thanksgiving. They will beat my my in-laws, New Orleans Saints, on the road there.
I'm going to agree with you here. I would have to be drug tested if I chose the Saints. Okay. I'm going with your pick, the 49ers, because it just makes sense.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
In the last of the 1 p.m. games for this upcoming Sunday, the Cleveland Browns travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Would you, right here, select the Browns over the Ravens?
No. What are we doing here? I think the only thing that may put you in a worse situation than having to tackle Derrick Henry is having to try to tackle Derrick Henry this week after losing that game in that matchup. You poor Browns fans, I'm so sorry. Old man Flacco, maybe he'll do things to throw well and get touchdowns against his initial team. Back when he was marching in the Roman legions in the offseason. It's the Ravens. What are we doing here?
Very, very true when talking about the Ravens. He's going to be running very angry in this game. I'm going with the Ravens as well. They win this one by at least 2 touchdowns.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Could be a little far-fetched. Don't get mad. I'm just giving you my honest opinion when it comes to how they win with those multiple touchdowns. Now, we move on to the 4 p.m. games. First one of them is a 405 contest between the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts, Kyle Nash. Looking at this matchup for what it is, do you think the Colts are able to keep the fire going, or will the Broncos get their second consecutive win of the season? Which team is 2-0?
I have the Broncos going on the road and handling business. That defense will make the difference. Put a dent in some of those dimes. It will not be raining. It will be hailing, because that's what you do with the dimes when you make it hail, right? So, no, all that to say, Sean Payton redeems himself, gets the win on the road.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you one more time and say what I saw from the Colts today, even though it was against the Dolphins, who looked like a bunch of dumpster pelicans, I just got a feeling that this offense led by Danny Dimes can get it done. And it's his year for the redeem story for the way that he was excommunicated and shunned out of New York. I'm going with Danny Dimes. That's my pick for this week in the 405 matchup.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
The second of the 405 matchups, Carolina Panthers travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Do we even need to give a prediction for this one?
Yeah, not really. It's a horrible matchup for the Panthers. The Cardinals are built to stop the run, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, no, give me the Cards.
I concur with your thoughts.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Moving on to the last of the 4 o'clock games, the 4:25 p.m. Eastern game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. The rematch of the last Super Bowl, last 2 of 3 Super Bowls between these two teams. Will the Chiefs be able to get their redemption here, or are they outmatched against a team whose leader on defense likes to spit on others?
Yeah, isn't that a whole thing? By the way, Xavier Worthy, their one best offensive weapon, not going to be in this game because he got knocked the beep out by Travis Kelce. You know, for all the talk we had about the potential turf issues in Brazil, that's what happened, really. The Eagles defense is still amazing with or without Jalen Carter. I don't care. I love me some Patrick LeVon Mahomes II, but man, there is only a limit to what one mere mortal can do. And he starts slow typically anyway. Give me an 0-2 Chiefs squad that'll still be playoff relevant and be fighting for the conference potentially. I don't know what happened to your volume, Drew. I don't hear you.
Oh, crap. I accidentally clicked the button. So I said in verbatim. So you're going to sit here and say the Chiefs are going to go 0-2, Kyle Nash, to start the season.
And still battle for the conference.
I agree with everything you just said and want to see it for the Swifties and their recent engagement news. I'm all in on this. I say the Chiefs lose and the Eagles are the ones that start out 2-0.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And now, we must take it to the Sunday night football contest, Kyle Nash. The one between these two teams, the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. Looking at this right here, between the teams that we've seen action out of one of them so far. We're just like the Bears, we're kind of picking another one blind a little bit. But with looking at this Sunday night football game between these two teams, what are your overall thoughts? Do the Falcons win on the road, or without seeing J.J. McCarthy's rookie debut yet, do you think that they can be 2-0 after this game? Basically off of picking the Vikings just to win.
Yeah, you can have Justin Jefferson all day at Days In. Michael Penix does his thing. I'm going to do something rare that a mortal man does not often get to do. I'm going to give a blessing to Black Jesus that Corey Mann's Atlanta Falcons will win the day over the Vikings.
I am going to say that with the amount of talent that they have on both sides, it's kind of at this point in where we're picking the game, it's kind of tough. You could pick either one. You could literally say either one of these two teams are talented enough to win on offense, but it's going to be which defense is tougher to withstand the other. And I think I'm going to agree with you here for the sake of our guy, Corey Mann, and say, did the Falcons win this one? I'm going to ride the coattails of that and say that that's how this one goes down.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
And now, let's take it to the final segment of the show, and that is the postgame.
As long as it's one.
Here in the post game, we give our final thoughts on what we just witnessed in this Sunday's amount of action in the NFL. Kyle Nash, we'll start it with you.
Yeah, people want to talk about the preseason games going away and making that happen, and even taking away another one, Drew Willingham, to where we would only have two. And you know what that would be? Make happen exponentially. Penalties in week bleeping 1. Are you kidding me? How many friggin' teams did we see going down this docket that had 9 or more penalties? I'm not here to say it's bad football, but it ain't great football. And maybe in week 1, you don't expect a lot of great football unless it involves the Bills and the Ravens. Baltimore and Buffalo. Goodness gracious, what a great football game. Of course, part of my parting thoughts has to be that if we were going to do awards for the dog of the week, it has to have been Josh Allen, right? Am I insane? Maybe, maybe not. But at day's end, man, excellent opening week. And I'm not just saying that because I got to talk about a victory Monday for the Duval Devout on the Duval Dive with my guy Travis T. Holmes. But at day's end, actually every team I covered this week had a win, whether it's them, the Bolt Blitz Uncut with the Chargers doing their thing in Brazil, and also the UCF Knights over North Carolina A&T in week 2 there, a 68-7 shellacking. It's a whole thing. Don't worry. I didn't just let them go because they won big, Drew Willingham. In my Making the Grade article on Black and Gold Banneret, I saw some things I needed cleaned up too. Not everybody got an A. I'm just saying.
It's a great way to round it on out there, Kyle Nash. I mean, you got to say everything in one, and you didn't even go with anything about your Homer team. I love it. That's why you are a true analyst. That is why you are of such, because even though you took arguably the number 1 pick for the grand champ of the week, dog of the week, if I were to pick one on the fly, I'd have to give it to Aaron Rodgers because of what he was able to pull off in his 40s, especially after the injury he just took a couple of years ago and what he went through with New York, and throwing 4 touchdowns today. He hadn't done that since he came back. Okay. 4 touchdowns, 244 yards isn't that big to look at, but the fact that he navigated an offense that they were having trouble finding a successor to Big Ben, and they still are going to have a tough time after this year because you only got him for a 1-year rental more than likely. So with what he was able to do, he was at least able to ease some minds after a really long offseason. Was he coming back? Was he not? Is he going to show up? What is he going to be able to do? And especially all the hype over the past couple of weeks about how slow he was moving in training camp. I myself, at least, am glad to see, regardless of who they played, that he was able to put up the numbers that he did today and not turn the ball over, not fumble it, not throw interceptions. Just 4 touchdowns, and then had some help with his, with other players on offense. The defense is what is going to really affect them this year if they take a major downfall. But just in case we don't have an opportunity for the other 17 weeks of the season to give him his praise, I'm going to do it now because we may not have another opportunity to do it again. You know how quick things can change in the NFL. So I'm going to go ahead and give that my pick for the grand champ of the week. Before we get out of here, just want to remind everybody that Total Football Talk Extra is now on Fridays at 5:05. Yes, sir. 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time. And that begins this Friday, September 12th, with episode 27. It's hard to believe now that with tonight's episode, we are at, combined with Total Football Talk and Extra, 126 episodes. It has been one fun ride, thanks to people like Cole Johnson, who helped me start this, and yourself, Kyle Nash, who's come in and pinched hit on multiple days to help us keep this thing going. But Extra will be this Friday at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Time. For my man Kyle Nash, the student of the game, I am Drew Willingham. We've only got one thing left to tell you, and that is to stay safe out here in these streets.